Hello, everybody. This is episode 1 of Mamapreneur. I am so excited because we have Amanda Spinney here for episode 1. And Amanda and I, we go way back. I'm excited to have her, especially to open up Mamapreneur because she, I feel, is somebody that I really look up to, um, not just as a mama, but like personally as well. So I'm excited to honestly learn a lot from you because, yeah, I'm just excited to jump right on in. But Amanda Spinney, she's been a stay at home mom for 4 years. She recently just started running her own business, and I'm very proud of her because to see where she started just really last year to where she is now, I think she's definitely going to inspire a lot of other mamas. So thank you so much for being on our very first episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So, Amanda, I wanted to get started to let people know a little bit about you, where you're from. So, if you want to go ahead and share your story.
Quick blurb. Sure. So I grew up an Army brat, and which means I moved a lot, even as a kid. And then I also married military as an adult. I have, I started having babies very young. So I had my oldest when I was 19. She is now 18. And I have an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, 12, 9, 7, and 5. Um, so it's always been busy. Um, I worked full time while I went to school full time, and I finished my MBA in finance. I did property management for a good 10 years. And when we moved here to Florida, I did purchasing for a really large electronic distributor. Um, and I found that it did not give me the flexibility that I needed to get kids to sports. My younger kids all go to a charter school, so we have to take them to and from school. So I needed flexibility in that. And so as my employer was transitioning from everyone could work at home to you have to go to the office a couple of days a week with a drive of at least an hour and a half one way. I had decided that that was not a good fit for me, and we were going to jump all into real estate.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we did, it took a little while to get our feet wet, but we slowly figured out some things, and now we have two different types of businesses in real estate, and they're doing pretty well.
Amazing. So, talk about the feelings that you had before you jumped right in full time to real estate.
So sometimes I joke that I'm a little hard headed, and God really has to kind of to drive things home. And so I had literally accidentally came across real estate. We were moving down to Florida, and the cost of living was really high. And we knew that I was going to have to do something. Previously, I'd been staying home with the kids to go ahead and contribute. And so I was going to get my real estate license. And I've done everything except actually take the exam. I like passed my background, did my fingerprints, did all the things. I just haven't went and taken the exam because there's some like gray area with being an investor and being an agent at the same time. So we kind of dabbled when I worked full time. I have a partner in Georgia. She also works full time, and it was so stressful trying to run a business and work full time. And I had decided, I'll never forget, I had decided on a Friday that we were no longer going to do real estate. That trying to juggle all the things and being a mom was too much, and that we weren't going to do this anymore. And on Monday, I got the notification that we were going to have to start driving into the office. And so I joked that that was God's sign that I had made the wrong choice. And so there was a lot of big fears. I've always been an employee. I was raised by employees. So the thought of, um, you know, having to hustle to find every dollar was a little bit scary. However, I've also always been that person that I felt worked harder than a lot of people around me and was making the same paycheck. And that was always a struggle for me as well. And so I think the most rewarding part of learning to work for yourself is that your efforts really are reflected in your paycheck. And that doesn't happen when you're an employee.
Absolutely. What did you do when fear would arise?
Oh, it still does. um, so there's a couple of things. So first of all, you are what you consume. And you know this in food and exercise, but this is also the case in what you listen to audibly. This is also the case in what you surround yourself with people. Like a lot of it, to become an entrepreneur, we have to completely change how we think. Everything has to be an opportunity and not an obstacle. And it takes a lot of self-work to do that. It's really funny because I really think that Taylor Swift song, I can't think of what it's called, but the one where she says, like, it's me, I'm the problem. That's most of us. Like, we are in our own way. Our fears are our own making. Like, they're not even a real thing. 9 times out of 10, those things don't even happen, and we fear them. And so we really have to change that mindset. And that takes, when I run, I listen to audiobooks. The real estate community I'm a part of, Sub 2, I have to tell you, is some of the most like amazing, like-minded people, that it's okay that good is never enough. Like, it's okay to want to push and want to do more. And it's the first environment I've ever been like that. And so it still sneaks in there. There's still days that I'm exhausted and I have terrible mom guilt that maybe what I'm doing, is not the right choice for my family, or, but you just kind of have to push through that and know that those are your insecurities and fears speaking, and that you are on a path to do what you're supposed to do, to find your purpose.
Absolutely. And especially being a mom of 6, I can only imagine. Like, how are you getting the kids involved? Do you get them involved? How do you deal with mom guilt? Let's start there, and then we'll go into like, how do you separate, or do you even separate your personal versus work life? So let's start. How do you deal with
Mom guilt. So I have to tell you, no matter what you're doing as a mom, you have mom guilt. If you are a stay-at-home mom and you're raising your kids, you wonder, is this what I want my daughters to see? Do I want my son to think that women can't go out and be fierce? Like, if you're climbing the corporate ladder, you have insecurities about that. Like, no matter what you do, breastfed, bottle fed, there's always mom guilt. And so that's one of the things I realized. I also realized that I used to be there for everything for my kids. I went to every appointment. I took them to every sports practice. I read with them every time. I did all the things. And so it was really hard to take a step back and realize that I'm not going to be able to do all of the things. And actually, when I was working corporate job, I had a lot less flexibility than I do now, even though I work more. And so I just realized that sometimes it takes just prioritizing them. And sometimes that 15 minutes of really focused prioritization is more important than, in our house, we play epic go fish games because they always mean something. Like, maybe you get to pick the dessert for the week, or you get to be the first to pick your chores, or, so go fish has high stakes in our family. And so we do that, and maybe those 15 minutes that we spend doing that are more important than a Friday movie night that we're not engaged and and so it might be shorter amounts of time, but we actively try to make those really engaged moments.
quality over quantity? I love that. And I think that's definitely a big thing that I've been learning too as a first-time mom, single mom as well, is, I today is the day that I finally have a nanny here, after 4 months, and I should have gotten one a long time ago. It's hard to pass your child on to somebody else, but I came to the point where I had to realize, like, just because my son is not in my arms does not mean that I'm prioritizing him. Me going to work and doing the things that I need to do in order to take care of the household and make sure that it's clean, make sure that I'm financially taken care of, make sure that I'm mentally well, make sure that I'm physically well, that's actually prioritizing my son more. And I had to finally come to that point because, yeah, it's definitely not easy, but you have to learn what priorities actually look like. How do you, I mean, with 6 kids, all under the age of 18 and under, what, like, how are you working with, because a lot of the times, like, we can say, you know what, like, my kids are so distracting, like, I can't even focus on work, like, so I'm just not even going to work. Like, what do you do? How do you keep them distracted without distracting you?
As you can tell, my office is in my dining room. And
Wow.
so we did that because over the summer, I have to supervise the WWE shenanigans going on in my house. And with my job, I'm on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I do the normal like 10-minute warning, 5-minute warning, and then like 2 minutes in, they forgot I'm on the phone, and it sounds like chaos. So some of that is just accepting that that's the chapter you're in.
Yeah.
You have a baby. Hudson's
Mm-hmm.
gonna cry when he's gonna
Oh,
cry.
yeah.
Like that's the life.
Yeah.
And having grace with them and acknowledging like they're not going to be able to be quiet. They're not, so if it's really important, setting up yourself a nanny, whatever, for success for that hour phone call or whatever it is. And then sometimes you're just going to have to, I used to do schoolwork until 2-3 o'clock in the morning because I didn't start it until after the kids went to bed.
Wow.
And now I'm on the opposite spectrum and I get up at 4-5 o'clock in the morning to do the things I need to do so that, at 7, I can take them to school. I think sometimes it's like exercise or diet or anything else. We kind of use our kids as a crutch, as a reason to not chase our dreams.
Mm-hmm.
When instead we need to decide we really want it and we are going to find a way.
Absolutely. So dealing with 6 kids and running a business, I would probably assume, I don't want to make the assumption, but you're probably very scheduled.
Yes.
What does that look like? Week in advance, month in advance, day in advance? Like, how do you operate your schedule?
So I time block, and I do it in the morning. And then usually I laugh hysterically at my good notions at night. But for the most part, I can stick with it pretty well. What's really important on my time blocking isn't necessarily for me that during the day, because my kids are gone, that during the day I hit specific blocks, but it lets me know like my workload versus my expectation at night. So if I have a really heavy workload and I've planned to work a couple hours at night, like I'm already prepared for that during the day because I know how that balance is going. And one of our businesses, I'm a transaction coordinator, which means I work with a lot of other investors. And so that really means that most of my day is not my day. I answer phone calls when I'm picking kids up from school, I'm always answering my phone. I'm always taking care of other people's issues. Like that's why they pay me. And so it's really difficult I have to pivot and I have to be flexible. And so I time block the best I can. But like I said, it really stresses more into whether I know if I need to work in the evening or not.
Got it. Okay. And what does your morning routine look like? Because you mentioned that you get up at 4 a.m. and then drop the kids off at school at 7. So between that time, like, what are you doing?
So my kids are really slow to wake up. So they get up at 6. They need a full hour to get rocking and rolling. And I try really hard. Again, active engagement at 6 a.m. So I'm helping them. I have some that don't like to go to school and it's a struggle. So we're doing the things at 6. So before that, I have an amazing group that meets twice a week. We do mindset. So we do meditation. And right now we're reading through books. And so that's a really nice start to the day. On the other days of the week, I actually have someone I meet with in the morning before she goes to the gym who's getting started in real estate. And so we kind of do a business meeting in the morning to go over the things, go over the day, and then off she goes. So it gives me about an hour after that to just go ahead and do some of my email catch up and plan and schedule my day. And then it's time to wake the kids up and start the day.
Got it. And how many days a week are you working?
7.
7 days a week with 6 kids.
That's
incredible.
I think that now Saturdays and Sundays sometimes are lighter, sometimes are heavier.
Yeah.
But first of all, everyone in my family is on board. Like they know the goals, they know what we're doing, they know why we're doing it. Including my husband. My husband's probably my biggest supporter. And so if you want to own your own business, there's this funny saying is the best part about owning your own business is you get to decide which 80 hours you work. And that's kind of the truth. Like, yes, I can take my kids to school and pick them up, but weekends and nights, mornings, like I work. And I work to change our trajectory. I want to see my kids live a different life, know a different life. They already do. Like on the way to school every morning, I make them listen to Snoop Dogg's affirmations. And then,
Snoop Dogg affirmations?
Yes, they're incredible. And then we do a morning mindset. So it's like 8 minutes every morning. They listen to something about mindset. And, already, it took me until like I was 30 to slowly start this process. And my kids are being raised to think different.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal.
That's amazing. I definitely like the Snoop Dogg affirmations. I'm going to have to check that out.
You know, they're for kids. He has like a whole album of music for kids. That's very positive and good. And
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So what did the conversation look like when you had to get your entire family on board when you transitioned into real estate full time?
So it was weird at first. I remember my son sometimes saying things to my husband, like if he was cooking dinner or something, he'd be like, well, no, just come play. Mom can do that. So there was definitely like a shift in understanding, like mom can no longer do all of the things. Like there's balance there. But now they're all good. They pitch in. Probably it was a struggle on when I was working my corporate job, like when they had my daughter just got student of the month last Friday. Like I wouldn't have been able to go to those. Thank you. I wouldn't have been able to go to those things. Like I was busy. And if I took time off, it was because they're sick or like my PTO was already spoken for. So it's not like I could just randomly take time off. And so me working for myself allows a lot more flexibility that I can go to the things I need to go to or want to go to. And that's the compromise we make as a family is I can take you to cross country meets that are an hour away every Tuesday, but maybe Tuesday night, I'm working when you go to bed.
Absolutely.
And
so let's get technical real quick with that conversation that you had with your family in order to get everybody on board, because I feel like that's a big challenge that a lot of families face is like, how do I have this conversation with my family, and also how do I get them involved so they understand this new, you went from cooking dinner every night to like, okay, wait, why is dad cooking dinner? Did you guys sit down at the table and have a conversation? Did you like what did it exactly look like?
Probably not. It was just probably a hot mess of like, what? Here we are. Um, uh, I would like to say that we probably had countless conversations with our kids. We're a pretty open family, so everything's just an ongoing dynamic conversation.
Yeah.
And so I think even like for hard weeks and stuff like that, like it's not just my husband that I have those conversations with, it's the kids that I have those conversations with, like what the expectation for time is and what's going on. And it's really good because I think it prepares them also that we have that two-way conversation, right? For like what they need and what, and so I think that since so much changed when we moved, like it was all kind of literally, I started working like 2 days after we moved. So everything kind of happened at once. It was just kind of our way of life in Florida. So maybe less, changes per se in the same environment. Last year or not last year, but the year before we moved here, they were riding a bus to school. Like there's a lot of other things that there's just a lot of change when we came down here.
Got it. So it was like a fresh start.
Yes.
Especially a fresh start for you too.
Yes.
Now, what did the conversation look like with your husband? And if you don't go into too much detail, you don't have to, but I definitely think this is an important area to hit because I truly believe if your partner's not fully on board, it can definitely make things tough. But what I do notice about you and your husband is that he's very supportive in everything that you do.
He is almost too supportive. So he is my first mentorship I signed up for. So the sub-2 mentorship I'm in right now is even the first one I signed up for. I signed up for the Women's Real Estate Investors Network. And he was gone for training. And they had this like little 5-day course and it was like $17. And I've never signed up for a masterclass or anything like that. So I have no idea, I'm going to say God's planning on that one that I signed up. And I was like, I could not believe it. I was just blown away about investing. And so I told my husband, and at that time, it was a huge amount of money to invest in this. Like it ate most of our savings. And I am a very frugal person, obviously, because we have 6 kids. I've had them starting young. I have been less than wealthy most of my life. And so I was nervous about doing that. And his response to me was either you do it or I will. And so I did. I spent the money. We signed up. And even then, I signed up, a few months before we left New York. And then I came down to Florida and I hadn't really started. I gave myself a crutch. I said, we're moving and we just got to wait and blah, blah, blah. And so when we started in Florida, it was still pretty small time. I didn't really start making progress, I would say, until about March of this year. And now every meetup we go to, everything, he's just like pushing me out. Like he goes and talks to other people to make sure that they've talked to me. It's crazy. But I need that. Like I'm a very conservative person. I'm not one to take leaps of faith. Again, mindset. And he will just shove me right off that cliff and make sure I go for it. So
I absolutely love that. It's definitely important. So you mentioned that you're more conservative. How did you, being a business owner or an entrepreneur, you have to develop social skills or you have to put yourself out there. Like, how did you get outside of your comfort zone and do that?
So I became an expert at the process. So it's the how that I became really good at. And so I struggle still like going to meetups and stuff like that. We had one a little while ago and there was like 300 people there. That's still very overwhelming for me. However, I forget where I saw it recently, but they said it just takes 8 seconds of courage. And I believe that. Like you just have to start that conversation. After that, people are nice. People want to talk to you. Like they're very engaging. And so I would tell everyone that ever wants to start business, first of all, you're 100% right. Like your social network is what's going to make you succeed. It doesn't matter what industry it is. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Your social network is what's going to elevate your game. And so for all of us that have talked 2-year-old for a really long time, we just need to get out there and ask other people questions. You don't even have to talk about yourself. Just ask everyone else what they're doing, and your mind's going to be blown and you're going to engage and really enjoy it. Again, you just got to get out of your own way and just jump.
Amen to that. Get out of your own way. That's for sure. All right. So let's take this in a little bit of a different direction. I know before we started this podcast today, you were talking about investing into Google SEO. And I really wanted you to talk about that because two things. One is Google SEO is definitely important, but most importantly, your mindset behind investing. Because I know in the very beginning, you're like, no way, I'm not investing a penny, but now you're investing how much a week or how much a month?
It's $1,700 a month.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So let's start talking about the mindset behind that. Like what got you into, because it's tough, like when you come from an employee mindset and you're now switching to a business owner, it is tough to change that mindset of I gotta invest, like whatever I put into this, I'm gonna receive. So what did you do in order to change your mindset around investing?
So when I very first started investing, someone told me it's not about how much you spend, it's about how much you make. And that phrase stuck with me because I thought it was ridiculous because how much you spend felt very relevant to me. And so, but that comment has always been in the back of my head. And so as we went through and we started, especially just general marketing, because for real estate, we do a lot to get leads. And people were very upfront that if you want quality leads, you're going to have to spend some money. And at first we budgeted very marginally, like what we thought we could afford and how we were going to do that. And lo and behold, it turned around and we got a pretty significant, contract. We bought a house and, it kind of just gained that momentum that we realized that you're going to have to spend some money to do some outreach. And I really want to caveat that with sometimes you're going to spend money and it was the wrong thing. We did website design and SEO previously. And I don't know anything about this stuff. So if we get into the nitty gritty, I literally don't know anything, but that's why I pay other people. It was an epic fail. Our website was terrible. It was so bad. Like we cringed when we looked at our website. It was just, I was so unhappy. And so in my Women's Real Estate Investors Network, I met this lady named Sheena, and everyone just raved about her websites. And at this point, though, I was still reluctant to engage.
I was gonna say, talk a little bit about how you felt because you're first off, you're investing anything, and then you go invest money, and then it just is a big flop, and you're like, I have 6 kids that I have to take care of, talk about that a little bit, and then what still made you say, okay, I'm gonna trust this new girl and invest with her?
Yes. So, and not only the website, but this same guy did Facebook ads for us for 3 months. And anyone who does Facebook ads knows it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
We paid a couple grand a month in Facebook ads, and to not get one lead. We didn't get one lead.
Hold on, you didn't get one lead in 3 months?
Yes.
Wow. And you just kept investing?
Well, I believe that 90 days is a good, you gotta all marketing efforts you have to have consistency. It's like working out in the gym. You got to have that consistency to develop any sort of rhythm before you finally see results.
100. I
Right.
want to touch on that real quick because that's so big is people quit way too soon. Like, even if it's not going to work out, like, you can't quit. You have to give it 90 days. So that way you can either see like if it grew your business or if it did not. And like, I do the same thing with employees. Like, if you hire an assistant or an admin, like, did they help grow your business after 90 days, or is your still the same, or is it less? Because then if it is less or it's the same, then that's when you need to tweak it and move forward.
Right.
So you got introduced to this new girl, and then what happened?
I vetted her better than the last guy used fake reviews on his website. I know because he used fake reviews on our website. I was like, take that off. And so I reached out to other people that had used her, and they have all this stuff. I don't really understand websites, but they have this stuff where they can like rate where your website is versus other people's websites in the area and stuff like that. And so I asked her to like plug in all these other people's websites, like in a Zoom call, and she's showing me where all the ones that she created rated. And this was all like cold. She had no idea I was going to ask her to do this. She probably thought I was really high maintenance, but she was really kind, and she went through all of that. And she has just been incredible. We just finished recently the website design, and so now we're starting our like directories stuff. I don't really know what that means, but she does.
That's all that matters. She's
That's right.
producing results. So, but after investing thousands of dollars and not making it back, like, what made you continue to push forward?
Well, because I don't want to give up in real estate. I feel two sides of real estate. Not only is obviously the process of owning homes and things like that going to change the future for my family, but to genuinely help people get out of terrible, terrible situations is extremely rewarding. If nothing else, like helping people that are stuck in their house for whatever reason, like, you know, they're either going to lose their house, they're underwater, like times have changed, whatever it is, helping those people is why I keep doing what I do. And so I knew that even though our marketing failed miserably, that I wasn't going to quit. And so if you're not going to quit and you want to stay in the realm that you're in, you're going to have to invest to get those leads, to get that next step. Like, it was all a learning process. Like, you know, I learned to vet who we hire better. I learned to take more of a active role. Like, we're gonna restart Facebook ads, but we're actually gonna do them ourselves. And so I sat down with lots of people that are successful in Facebook ads and went over like how to read all the things. So it's just, we failed forward. We wanted to learn from our mistakes. And so we're going to fail a lot more often, but at least we're going to figure it out.
I definitely feel the most successful people have gone through the most quote unquote failures. I don't really even look at it as failures. They're just challenges, because there's no such thing as failure unless you give up. And you definitely hit on one thing, was you either learn or you earn. So you went through a learning phase, and now you're earning because you stayed persistent and consistent and kept learning until you're like, okay, now we're profiting. One thing I did want to touch base on was mom brain just kicked in, and I just completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I loved how you talked about, because I asked you, like, you going, and you're like, well, I love helping people. And I think that's so key, because a lot of people, they do, well, I mean, actually not a lot of people, we all come into becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner usually because of the financial freedom. And that may be a different definition for everybody. It can be more time with your family, more money with your family. But I definitely believe that in order to be successful as a business, or as a business owner or an entrepreneur, you truly have to have a why that is behind helping individuals, because if you make it about money, money is so short-lived. Money's always going to come, but if you make it about helping people, it goes from your head to your heart, so you're not in your head anymore. And I remember when I first started in the insurance industry, I started at the age of 18, and I just kept going through these repeated like up and down hills of emotions because I was so focused on the money. So what would happen is I would make a bunch of money and then I'd stop working, because what was I doing? I was chasing the money, right? I didn't really have a why behind it. And then I was like, man, I need to get out of this. And I finally came to a point where I was like, I really need to write down my why and like why I originally came into this industry, because it's not just about the money. And I originally came in because I knew that in the future, when I have a family, I wanted to be able to provide for them, and honestly not be like my parents, where my parents were always gone when they were working, or when they had us. They were always gone. My nanny was probably like my parent. Like I knew my nanny more than I knew my parents, because they were always gone, and I didn't want that for my kids. And I had to remember, like, okay, well, in order to get that, I need to help more people. And once I started putting people first and asking myself every time I got in front of something, and once I got in front of somebody belly to belly, I was like, okay, what can I do to put this person in a better position? And if I couldn't help them, then I would just move on to the next person. And that really helped me skyrocket my business and become a lot more profitable. For a little bit of time, I wasn't making as much money, but I finally got into the groove of like, okay, this is my niche market of people that I'm working with. And I'm just going to keep getting in front of people. I'm focused on omnipresence. I'm going to get myself out there more and more and more, because that's just going to allow me more opportunities to get in front of the niche market of people that I want to work with, because I can't help out everybody, but I can help out the people that I define. Niches get you riches. That's one saying that I've heard and I stuck with it. And it's so true. Like when you focus on, you have to define your type of client or customer, and then just focus on getting yourself out as much as possible so you can get in front of more people, to find your clients and customers. But speaking of that, my son, you can hear him. Forgot what I was gonna say because I just heard him crying, and this is the first time that he has not been in my arms and he's with somebody else. So to like hear that, I like want to jump up and go help him, but I'm not. So I'm gonna sit right here. But to end this podcast, Amanda, could you give any moms some advice on how to stop just living for your kids, but also live for yourself? Because the more you live for yourself, the better off you're going to be for your kids.
Absolutely. So one of my biggest takeaways, and I think that I've learned in recent time, is because my oldest is 18 and she's at college right now. And that is the reality. And we don't think about it when they're little and they're crying, and we don't, but they're going to go have their own beautiful life. And what you don't want at the end of that is to like not have that yourself. My husband and I say all the time that we're not raising children, we're raising future adults.
Absolutely.
So I want to be that woman that I want my daughters to aspire to be, that my sons want to be with. Like I wanted to be an example in all ways to them. And some of that meant chasing my dreams.
I love that. Perfect. Well, Amanda, again, thank you so much for being on our very first episode of Mamapreneur. Do you have any social media pages or Facebook, Instagram that you want to share with folks, so that way if they're interested in real estate or interested in connecting with you, there's a way to reach out to you?
Sure. So you can find me on Facebook either by my name, Amanda Spinney, or I wore my shirt. I don't know if it's like weird on here, but Spinney Homes is
How do you spell Spinney?
Spinney.
Okay, perfect.
We also have sad social media. It's a work in progress. We are forward progressing on this. So yeah.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.